Maybe for you, maybe you feel like it's just always one thing after another, where you're in the middle of a storm and you just make it through. All of a sudden, now you're in the middle of another storm. Where, okay, I have this storm in life that I'm facing because of issues I'm having at work. And as soon as you deal with this one thing, then all of a sudden you have all this family drama that pops up, and now you have to deal with this. And then you figure that out. And now you have all of these financial issues that you need to worry about. And so the storms, they feel like they're compounding on one another. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you feel like you're just constantly berated by the storms of life. Remember with me this, that Jesus and his disciples, that they were in the middle of the Sea of Galilee when they were overcome by this storm. It was actually a storm that Jesus led them in. He said to his disciples, let's get in the boat, let's cross over to the other side and follow me there. And midway through the sea, there was a huge storm that comes, and the disciples, they were freaking out. They were trying to gather themselves together, trying to, I don't know what they had, if they had buckets and they're trying to take the water out of the boat and toss it back into the sea, but they were fighting for their lives. And what was Jesus doing at the time? He was taking a siesta. Right, he was snoozing, he put the snooze alarm on, and he was resting through it all. Why? Because Jesus understood that he had control over it the entire time. In fact, he says this to his disciples. Mark chapter 4, verse 39, when Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and the waves and said, "Silence, be still." Suddenly the wind stopped and there's a great calm. That Jesus said these 3 words, "Silence, be still," and those storms that the disciples were so terrified of, all of a sudden they ceased. They stopped. Jesus was able to rest in the middle of the storm because he had control the whole time. And you and I are able to rest in the middle of the circumstances that we find ourselves in when we recognize who's in control of our lives. When we recognize that God is still on the throne, that regardless of the things that we're facing, it doesn't change the fact that God is still with us, that God is still for us, and that if the Bible says if God is for us, then nobody can stand against us. So the important thing for us is to align ourselves with God, to make sure, okay, I want to be on the winning team. I don't like losing. I don't know about you guys. I love being on the winning team. So I'm going to align myself constantly with God to make sure of it, right? That he is the one who gives us victory in our lives. Remember, Jesus was the one who led the disciples into the storm in the first place. So here's the key for us, is that God will never lead you into a storm that he doesn't have power to give you victory on the other side. He'll never lead you into a storm where he doesn't have the power over the storm, where he doesn't have control over the storm.